Hello, fellow therapists. I'm Jonathan Pishner with Apex Counseling, and a grad student asked me a great question the other day that I wanted to put out in front of other grad students and other beginning therapists because I thought it was a really important and a really wise question, which is, do I need a specialty to be more marketable as a therapist, to be more likely to get a job? And I'm going to answer that as best I can because I know a piece of the answer for sure. And then there's one part of it where I am not precisely sure, but I think I know something about it. If you're going to go into private practice, the answer is yes, you absolutely need a specialty because you are basically looking at a group of however many people in your area, however many people in the area where you're allowed to practice. For me, it's the states of West Virginia and Georgia, so I'm not sure what the population is there, but it's pretty high. But you're looking at a pretty massive group of people there. And within that group of people, you want some of them to come and seek out your services. Now, one of the things that whenever you're opening a private practice is you've got to have an idea of who are you best able to serve, because no matter what, even if you don't have a formal specialty, there are certain people you are just better at helping. Either you connect with them better, or you understand the problem better, or your personality fits with their personality better, something. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to take those millions of people and you're trying to talk to a subsection of them. So one of the specialties that I had early on that's kind of a specialty because you have sports psychology, but it's not like one of the ones that you'd maybe go get certified in necessarily, is I specialized in athletes. The reason I specialized in athletes was because the models I was trained in happened to work particularly well for athletes, but also being an athlete myself, I understood certain things about their mindset and about their psychology. Like if they get injured, the first thing they want to do is get back to their thing as quickly as humanly possible. And being able to speak from understanding that desire, because I have the same desire, helped a lot. So I could really help them in an accelerated way. Whereas there were other populations that I was fine working with, but I couldn't help them in such an accelerated way because I didn't have like natural talent advantages around that population. So if you're going to go into private practice, you should absolutely start specializing in something, and it can be one of the formal therapy specialties, or it can be like kind of a population like that where you just have figured out, oh, I know that I connect with this population better, or I can speak to them better, or I have some advantage when I work with them. Because if you are marketing yourself as a private practice and you say, I help everybody, well, that's great, but nobody cues in and listens to that. But if you say, I help athletes who are struggling with the depression that comes with having to take time off after an injury, well, yeah, sure, 8 million people didn't listen to you, but 75 of them did. And now 75 of them are really interested in what you have to say because they heard that you were speaking to them. So private practice wise, you absolutely do need a specialty. My very first specialty was trauma, and I don't pretend that it came from like some sort of great big, moment on my part where like I had a brilliant thought. I heard somebody else's brilliant thought and said, "Oh, that's correct. That's going to be my first specialty." One of my mentors in class said that it was his belief that if somebody is walking into a therapy office, they have trauma. And that was at a time when, schools were not really teaching people to be nearly so trauma informed. So at that time, it was a much bigger specialty than maybe it is today because it's really becoming part of the generalized therapy set. That was my first specialty because he said that. And I said, oh, that's absolutely right. So you can figure out your first specialty by just figuring out what do you jive with? What are people saying that like you connect with? There's a lot of ways you can figure out your first specialty, but private practice wise, you absolutely need one. Now, general job wise, if you want to go work at a hospital system, or if you want to go work at a big community mental health center, or if you're a school counselor, that's the part where I have to admit that I'm not precisely sure. But I think the reason I'm not precisely sure is because when you're trying to assess your marketability in that arena, what you're really trying to do is guess what is in the head of the people hiring. And so I could easily see, let's imagine a school counselor for a moment trying to get hired on with a school system. I can easily see a hiring person thinking, here is a generalized counselor. This is going to be so much better than anybody else we could hire. We need to hire the generalist. I could also see a hiring person be like, aha, this person seems okay with this stuff, but they're very specialized for autism. And Billy and Susie, who have autism, are such a difficulty. They're going to be great with these two. We should hire this person. I could very easily imagine both of those. And so it's difficult for me to guess what is going to make a person more marketable in that, because you're trying to guess what's in the head of the hiring people. Guessing what's in the head of a general market, like in private practice, is really not that hard. Guessing what's in the head of people hiring, that can be really tricky. So I think for my grad student that asked that question, and anybody else that's young in the field that asked that question, if you are looking to just work for community mental health or work for hospital systems, I think my honest answer is I'm not sure, but I can't see how it would hurt to start deliberately specializing, because if it comes right down to it and it seems like that's hurting you, you can just downplay that on your resume. It seems to me that it's much better to have a very special skill set and not end up needing to use it than needing a specialized skill set and not having it. So I think I'm going to lean towards specialization anyway, just that you may not need it quite so badly, quite so importantly as you do in private practice. So there's some tips for my young therapists out there today, or maybe even the ones who've been in the field for a while and are maybe wondering about specializing. So hopefully this was useful for you out there. Thank you very much for listening to me for a minute. I'm Jonathan Pishner with Apex Counseling, and I will see you next time.